Malik-led Jammu Kashmir Liberation Front, or the JKLF, has been banned by the centre under anti-terror law. The organisation has been banned under various provisions of the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act.
The central government has today declared JKLF Yasin faction as an unlawful association under the Section 3(1) of the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act 1967. This is in accordance with the policy of zero tolerance against terrorism, which is being followed by the central government. Government is committed to relentlessly pursuing the policy of curbing the activities of secessionist organizations, which are a threat to unity and integrity of the country.
The centre is of the firm belief that the activities of JKLF Yasin faction poses a serious threat to the security and unity of the country.
The activities of JKLF pose a serious threat to the security of the country and are prejudicial to the territorial integrity and sovereignty of India. This organization has been actively and continuously encouraging feelings of enmity and hatred against the lawfully established government and has been indulging in armed rebellion. 37 FIRs have been registered by J&K police against JKLF. JKLF continues to be actively engaged in supporting and inciting secessionism and terrorism, including terror financing.
Now, JKLF has many serious cases registered against it. JKLF is also actively involved in raising funds and distribution to Hurriyat Cadre and stone pelters to fuel unrest in the Kashmir Valley, as well as for subversive activities in the state.
The organization which has been declared unlawful today, that is the Jammu and Kashmir Liberation Front, led by Muhammad Yasin Malik, has spearheaded the separatist ideology in the valley, and it has been at the forefront of separatist activities and violence since 1988. Murders of Kashmiri Pandits by JKLF in 1989 had triggered their exodus from the valley. And Muhammad Yasin Malik was the mastermind behind the purging of Kashmiri Pandits from the Kashmir Valley and was responsible for their genocide. JKLF के विरुद्ध कई सारे गंभीर मामले दर्ज हैं। इनमें भारतीय वायुसेना के 4 अधिकारियों की हत्या का मामला, डॉक्टर रुबैया सईद जो श्री वीपी सिंह के नेतृत्व वाली केंद्र सरकार के तत्कालीन गृह मंत्री मुफ्ती मोहम्मद सईद की पुत्री थी, का अपहरण सम्मिलित हैं। साथ ही यह संगठन आतंकवाद को बढ़ावा देने के लिए अवैध तरीके से धन मुहैया कराने के लिए जिम्मेवार रहा है।
And this is the second organization in Jammu and Kashmir which has been banned this month. Earlier, the centre had banned Jamaat-e-Islami Jammu and Kashmir.
28 फरवरी 2019 को केंद्र सरकार ने जमात-ए-इस्लामी JNK को भी अनलॉफुल एक्टिविटीज़ प्रिवेंशन एक्ट की धारा 3 के अंतर्गत अनलॉफुल एसोसिएशन घोषित किया था। उस समय यह स्पष्ट किया गया था कि जमात-ए-इस्लामी JNK जमात-ए-इस्लामी हिंद से बिल्कुल पृथक संगठन है। 1953 से इसका अलग संविधान है और कश्मीर के सबसे बड़े आतंकवादी संगठन हिजबुल मुजाहिदीन को जमात-ए-इस्लामी JNK के द्वारा ही एक प्रकार से खड़ा किया गया।
And this big story takes us to the issue in focus this evening. Government acts tough on terror in Jammu and Kashmir, bans JKLF. And joining me in the studio is Mr. Alok Bansal, strategic expert. Welcome, sir, to our studios. Now, post Pulwama, we saw that any organization having any kind of soft corner for terrorism, the government decided to be strong on it. In that direction, how significant is the banning of the second separatist organization, JKLF, in Jammu and Kashmir?
See, it is very significant because JKLF is the original terrorist organization in Jammu and Kashmir. And the whole anti-state fight in Jammu and Kashmir started with JKLF, and JKLF has been involved in certain very heinous crimes.
Right.
It actually hijacked an Indian plane, killed Air Force personnel, indulged in a systematic pogrom of Kashmiri Pandits. There are so many allegations against these people. Even Robaiya Sayyad's kidnapping, JKLF was involved. And even now, this organization is not only active in Jammu and Kashmir, but also active in Pakistani occupied Jammu and Kashmir as well as in many other countries. They were also involved in the past in kidnapping an Indian diplomat and killing him. Ravindra Matre was killed by JKLF activists. So, this has been an organization which was born in violence and actually has consistently bred violence. It's also been connecting, as I said, resources and funds to wage a war against India, and most significantly, its avowed objective has been secession. So, any secessionist organization which openly preaches secession from India, I think cannot be allowed to function overground.
That makes one wonder, Mr. Bansal, with such heinous and serious criminal activity is also for something that JKLF has been responsible. What made it an organization that was free to operate in Jammu and Kashmir so far? What were the reasons for the previous regimes to not take very serious and clear action, given the nature, separatism, of course, and along with that, serious criminal actions, the genocide of Kashmiri Pandits, one of the things that you mentioned. What stopped action by the previous regimes against them?
See, I think Yasin Malik, the leader of JKLF in India, at some stage tried to project as if he had had change of heart, and from a violent organization they had decided to lead their struggle as non-violent manner, because at a certain point in time in their struggle or so-called their violent activities, the Pakistan and ISI, who had been sponsoring JKLF, started shifting their patronage from JKLF to Hizbul Mujahideen. And as soon as ISI shifted their patronage, JKLF found that they were actually without any support and they started losing ground. And when they realized that they could not match Hizbul Mujahideen in violence, they tried to project a non-violent image, and Yasin Malik all of a sudden started talking in a Gandhian manner. And I think that's one of the reasons why the governments allowed them to function for some time. But what eventually came out was that this was all a facade. Under the facade of being non-violent or something, they were actually building up their image abroad. In fact, they were carrying out a systematic propaganda against India and actually was collaborating with the people in POJK who were conspiring against India. So, I think at some stage the government of India had to crack the whip, and I think the right time for government of India was to do this, because at a time when we have seen one of the worst terrorist attacks in Jammu and Kashmir.
And that really makes the issue even more serious. The links of the separatists with terror funding. Now, this has been an issue that has dominated international discourse in the country about how to check the funding to the terrorist organizations. And here we have organizations which are which hitherto roamed around freely, also having links with funding terror activities in the state.
See, terrorism funding is a very, very crucial thing, and I think demonetization had to some extent curbed it. But unfortunately, the money supply has now again been revived for various reasons, and we can again see that the money is again going back into the terrorists' hands. So, I think we need to take certain drastic actions against, and I think that's one of the way. Second is that money trail needs to be established, and people who have clear-cut money trails going abroad must be prosecuted. And I think one of the steps which the government is taking is against Syed Galisha Gilani, who has been found to have received foreign funding. He was actually found with $10,000, which is again a violation. So, action is being taken, albeit a little late, but all these actions will ensure that the terrorism in Jammu and Kashmir is controlled and then eventually eliminated.
And how do you think what do you think would be the immediate implications of these very stringent action against Jamaat-e-Islami and now against JKLF? Do the security forces need to be more careful? Is there some kind of a retaliation that one can expect, given that not only their funding but their operations are being choked by banning them?
See, to my mind, JKLF at this juncture was a toothless organization. It was an organization which didn't have strength or anything.
Right.
But Jamaat-e-Islami was a very, very significant organization, and it actually provided that ideological support to almost all the terrorists that were actually functioning. And many of the terrorists who actually indulged in violent acts were at some stage or the other Jamaat-e-Islami sympathizers or its workers.
Right.
So, this ban on Jamaat, and this needs to be implemented very vehemently, will be very, very effective, because if we can actually curtail Jamaat's activities more or less completely, then we would have eliminated. Please understand, Jamaat has a very peculiar structure in Jammu and Kashmir. Jamaat-e-Islami Jammu and Kashmir is separate from Jamaat-e-Islami India or Jamaat-e-Ulema Hind, etc., which are the organizations functioning in India. So, Jamaat in J&K, which was independent organization of Jamaat-e-Islami in India, I think needs to be curtailed, eliminated, and then maybe if required, if it is felt that this sort of an ideology is allowed to be prevailed, then Jamaat-e-Islami India should be allowed to move into this particular area. But Jamaat-e-Islami Jammu and Kashmir has been the single most factor responsible for most of the radicalization and terrorist acts in Jammu and Kashmir.
Right, we know one of the serious problems in tackling the menace of terror and dealing with terrorists has also been the issue of stone pelting. Often we've seen civilians being involved in it to a great extent. Now, one of the charges against JKLF is also about funding involved in motivating such stone pelters. Now that there is a decisive action, JKLF is being banned. How far, to what extent do you think the menace of stone pelting is going to be checked with this action?
See,
and that leads us to the bigger issue of really recovering the consciousness of the civilian population, especially those particularly brainwashed by the propaganda of the separatists.
See, please understand, 99% of the stone pelters are those who are paid money to throw stones. And these are young kids who have nothing else to do. They are given a certain amount of money and they happily indulge in this particular
But there's also some ideological motivation. I mean, it can't be
no, unfortunately, as far as stone pelting per se is concerned, bulk of the people who indulge in stone pelting are primarily doing it because of economic incentives that are being given, and the economic incentive is being given because they want to obstruct the security forces from performing their tasks. And I think it's been very clearly stated by the Chief of Army Staff that when you are in an operation, anybody who obstructs the operation will be seen as a combatant and an enemy. So, to that extent, government is taking. But now, once you start clamping down on these outfits and their financial sources are dried up, you will see that the stone pelting will reduce. As regards ideological backing is concerned, we need to carry out a well articulated de-radicalization campaign, and that requires a lot of efforts, a lot of scholarship is needed to create a counter narrative, to counter the narrative that is being churned by radical outfits in Jammu and Kashmir, and that would be the eventual success. When we can churn out the de-radicalization narrative, we can probably de-radicalize the youth to realize, so that the youth actually starts moving away from these obscurantist outfits.
And do you think these actions that have been taken and now being discussed in the public domain, it also exposes to some extent the double face of the separatist? You mentioned Mr. Syed Gilani and the trail of money charges that he's facing. It also exposes the face of these individuals in front of the people of Jammu and Kashmir, who to some extent, some sections may think of them as their representative, but when their corruption, when their nexus with terror funding is revealed, that also would have an impact on the people.
See, there is no doubt that all these so-called leaders of Hurriyat Conference or of these separatist organizations have their own kith and kin actually safely ensconced in other parts of India or abroad, and they are leading a life of luxury. You see the financial status of people like Gilani, Yasin Malik, etc., how they have actually prospered during this phase of violence, terrorism and insurgency that they have cultivated. And this very clearly shows that these people have made it into an industry to sustain their own personal pecuniary benefits, and to that extent they are actually playing with the lives of ordinary Kashmiri youth to sustain their economic interests and ensure their primacy in the society.
Right, so the parallel action by the security forces against terrorists has been swift, particularly after Pulwama, that eliminated complete Jaish cadre, and also in the past 24 hours more than 6 terrorists have been killed. We're getting figures of some more numbers as well, but how significant do you think that swift action has been as a parallel action to the action taken against the separatist? What do you say on that?
See, as far as taking actions against the separatists is concerned, the government has moved at different directions in a multi-pronged strategy.
Right.
One is, of course, eliminating the terrorists, and we have seen a large number of terrorists have been liquidated, neutralized, and that shows that security forces are going about their job unhindered. And the very fact that the state is actually under governor's rule has been actually beneficial, because there have been no obstructions in their functioning. The second is, of course, we saw what we did when we went to Balakot. We are actually trying to destroy the training camps of these separatists across the line of control, across the international borders, from where these terrorists are trained and are actually inducted.
But sir, this disturbing phenomena that has also come to the fore, this particular set of encounters that have taken place, in which about 6 terrorists have been eliminated, there were civilians also taken hostage. One of them was rescued, but a little boy, a minor boy, lost his life as a casualty. Do we see a new kind of shield being used by terrorists? The local people whose issues they claim to defend are now becoming victims of terrorism directly, being used as shields.
See, the fact is, if you actually look at terrorism right from the beginning, they have been indulging in this sort of acts. In fact, when the JKLF itself, when it started violence, actually it killed large number of Kashmiri Muslims also. Whoever they felt was not willing to accept their point of view. Then of course they brought in these stone pelters, who again they were using as shields primarily, because they were actually combatants who were actually obstructing the security forces. And now once they realize the security forces are not going to be deterred by this, they have now started taking civilians as hostages, trying to take shelter behind innocent people. But the security forces have been going about their task and have been actually acting against the terrorists while minimizing the collateral damage. And I think with this sort of a movement that's been going on, I think we'll very soon see that the public of Jammu and Kashmir would realize what these terrorists are, and will start actually coming out far more openly against these outfits and their backers.
Right, and finally, sir, the action that has been taken against JKLF, the banning of the organization, also on the eve of the Pakistan National Day program that India has boycotted, but separatists have been invited. In all of these developments, how significant do you think also this action against JKLF becomes the clear message by the government?
Well, this is a very, very significant thing. As far as Hurriyat conference is concerned, the government had said that they have no locus standi, and the Pakistan inviting them is unacceptable, or Pakistan communicating with them is unacceptable. And I think government has given a very, very strong and firm message. No government representative has attended the Pakistan National Day reception today. And of course, also now by banning JKLF, they've ensured that these JKLF activists, who have also been part of Hurriyat conference, will not be able to move around freely. And I think these sort of signaling are important at this point of time to tell the nation that yes, we are going to deal with anyone who is against nation, who preaches secession strongly and firmly.
All right, we'll have to wait and watch the kind of impact that this parallel action against terrorists and the separatists involved in this terror nexus takes place. Meanwhile, thank you very much, Mr. Bansal, for joining us for this discussion in the studio.